this. I'm not taking notes. I'm just running around. But you saying there's a a, a proposal? You say you have access to a proposal,
No, there's
or
an
the proposal?
RFP that's already out, and the RFP, it's called California Jobs First.
Okay,
The RFP deadline to meet the RFP deadline is excuse me, March 10th, 5 p.m.
March 10th. And what exactly does it focus on?
Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat box because man, it's kind of simple, but it is very complex on how
Uh,
someone who has never heard of California Jobs First day one would be able to say, "Hey, man, I want to throw my hat in the ring." But what the requirements are that you have to have already been onboarded onto their high road training collaboration partnership before January 27th. So if you have not done that, you're going to have to partner with somebody who has, and they become the lead organization that can bring you in. So you don't have to be part of that database
okay.
unless if you don't find a partner that's a lead, they could be the lead and do nothing, but you have to have a lead in order to be able to compete for the grant.
So so do you have a lead in mind?
Well, it could be David. David, you're signed up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it could be
signed up.
David.
I can take
It
those.
could
Okay,
be me.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, both of my organizations are we have been onboarded.
Right. So,
And
and this is what I'm going to count on. Instead of me putting this in the chat, David, you might have to give, Mike some answers to those questions he had because those
okay,
are good
yeah,
questions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we've been
Okay.
looking. I mean, I've been, like I said, the reason why we wanted to be on board is to look at projects that we can attach ourselves to that is shovel ready. And I think one of the things that we've talked about is how do we address the training component, the housing component, the how the health component of a project that's pretty much shovel ready, but could be also scaled. And that's why we talked in the last conversation we talked about was having we looked at the modular homes and the tiny homes and that being a solutions for some of the problems, not only for housing, but also teaching people how to build these and get a job skills that allows them not only to build the homes, but also go on to construction careers while addressing the homelessness problems. And on top of that, looking at partnering with local clinics in the area to provide the mental health and the other healthcare services needed for somebody to thrive in that space. And then also other wraparound services as a training, my company obviously looking at the training component of it and implementing that, and also looking to engage the employers who would be interested in being part of this project. So, and I invited, we spoke a little bit last week about the modular tiny homes, and you asked about site control. So I wanted Armias to be on the call to introduce himself. He's doing that. He's in that space. He's building these homes already. He has two sites, one in Lancaster, one in LA, and he wants to work with organizations that look to address this homelessness issue too in a more holistic way. So that's I mean, and then there could be other components too. I'm open for like I said, for suggestions, but like I said, I don't
Right.
mind taking the league and putting everything together
Well,
as part of yeah.
David, I would suggest that if you are the lead, we just need from your leadership position, we need to have some directive that allows us to, take, the direction and start putting it into format, whether it be the proposal or just, through a matrix of things that, we can inventory for us to be able to see, that we're
And also like the idea, I mean, obviously, also data collection and data, like the part of the actually the tech side that you mentioned before. I mean, I think there's a lot of moving parts. It just needs to be pulled together in a way that makes sense for everybody in this call that
okay.
can
Yeah.
bring to the table. We know
Yeah.
what Ermias does. We know what he
Right.
does.
So
He's on site.
yeah. So David, from your leadership position, um, before we get off the call, I'd love to know more about the tiny homes, but just see if you could
It's on
take
screen right now.
Yeah. So let's see if
These
we can
days.
take, if you can take, because what we'll need is, something that starts to document and verify all the things that we've thought and have, articulated. We just need to have
Mhm.
all that together so that we can put together, the teaming agreement. And that's not necessary in order to submit, but I think it will show
I have one.
that.
I have a framework of one, and
Yeah,
I'll get it
yeah,
out to the
and
group.
and
I
and,
just
and
yeah.
again, I've been a part of some teaming agreements, but I think in the spirit of it, just having these conversations is great. But again, if you put it onto paper, I think
I
everybody
will.
then starts to have. Oh, I see
Okay.
Renee. I'm sorry, Renee. Yeah, I think everybody will have something in the pocket where they can
Yeah.
start to say, "Oh man, this is me," or "This isn't me," and then we can see, how we can actually act accordingly. So, Renee.
So
So
everybody can see the
Kevin,
screen? Can everybody
Huh?
see the screen? Can everybody see the
Oh yeah,
screen?
yeah. So
Okay, so you're seeing the video that
yeah, so
that's live. That
yeah, if we
that
can't, if we
Yeah,
can't, Mike, Dave, Renee had a
I
question
don't see it.
before we go through the. Can you have Kevin stop because I want to be able to have you narrate what it is we're looking at. Okay.
Oh,
Armis, stop the video for a second, then you can kind of narrate what you have. Go
can I
ahead,
ask
Renee.
my
No
question?
problem. Let me see.
Can I ask my question,
Yes. Okay.
please?
Yes.
Go ahead, Renee.
Um, Kevin, could you send that link directly to my email instead of putting it in the chat?
I
Because
will.
I'm
I
not able
will.
to access it.
I will.
Thank
I
you.
will. And what I'm doing, I'm gonna right after this call, I will give you guys a complete report on what came out of the
That'd
BizFed
be great.
meeting yesterday, where GoBiz from the state of California gave us some insight as to what they were looking for implementation, shovel ready, as well as what somebody could do to kind of cover the whole state's uh, um, problems for solutions and
Okay.
how all that stuff would be, connected together. And then there was another section beyond California Jobs First, where he had another initiative that was K through 16. So,
okay.
yeah, because obviously you say, well, how could K through 10 be part of the solution of getting people to work? Because, I mean, again, nobody can go to work until they're 18. You can get a job permit when you're 14, and maybe 16, you can start to actually have the world of work. But there's another whole bucket from K through 10th grade that this gentleman represented.
Got
So
it.
I will send all of that via email. No, I won't put anything in the chat. Okay.
Excellent.
So Renee, was that the answer to your question or statement?
That was my question.
Okay. All right. So David, now we're ready for that great
Just
narration
no,
and video
I
tour.
wanted Ermias to be on the call. I mean, I didn't want to take up his time, but I wanted him to kind of give us a sneak peek of what he does,
Okay.
and how he does it, and introduce himself because I know I kind of talked about him last week, and I know we're coming up against a 10 deadline, so I want to make sure if this is something we want to include, we have some understanding of our somebody of it. So, Ermias, just introduce yourself a bit. I know you'd given us a little bit of a tour, but
Hello,
we
good.
kind of heard what. Go
That's
ahead.
good. So my name is Ermias. The owner of Blue Nile Property. I mostly develop in South Central. I have done, big projects and small projects. I think the ones I've done, I'm proud of is the one on Central and Imperial. Those projects are mine. So mostly the last couple of years, I've been building micro units, converting buildings to micro apartments to homeless. I have about 180 of them in the pipeline, but I also start building modular container homes that last 3 years. So I'm building here in Central, and I'm starting building in Lancaster. In Lancaster, we're working on it's a 15-acre lot with a bunch of properties with a nonprofit. They want to house people and they potentially want to train them as well. And I was, that's not my area of expertise, schooling and what have you. I've been talking to David about it, and then he told me about this opportunity. He told me to get on the Zoom call for a few minutes. That's what I'm doing. If you have any questions, please let me know. We can build anything you want, from a hospital to a tiny home. Our license will allow you to build. I mean, I build for the county not directly, indirectly, like therapy room, um, washers and dryers room. Whatchamacallit, what else did I build it for them? Like pop-up restaurants and what have you. So we do have the license for commercial and residential. And it'll be
Great.
to train somebody in the inner cities to how to do this stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
so I wanted, yeah, I mean, so I wanted to bring somebody who's legit, who has the license to actually execute this, but also has projects that are ready to move forward. We just gotta put it in a package that makes sense in terms of employment, housing, health, and all the other services that we can actually
Right.
provide. So
Okay. And David, there are two more pillars that are going to be important. And so, Ermias, maybe you could help me with this. Have you ever used or deployed any green, clean tech like solar?
No, I worked with a brother that he needed one. I helped him build it, and he never got the grant. But yes, no, I haven't done it for myself. But I worked. I tried with a nonprofit. It didn't work out.
Okay, because that's going to be really one of the four pillars that we have to hit
Mm.
is, not just solar, but anything else that we can do to reduce the carbon footprint. Low energy light bulbs. I mean, there's a million different things that I can't, articulate that would help produce a green, clean, zero carbon footprint. But those are the things that they're going to look for that we
This
have to implement.
the container home is extremely insulated, right? From the wall to the roof. You don't need to use air conditioning. So the rating is a lot much better than energy consumption than a regular home. What I don't like about the solar, if you don't get any sort of grant, if you want to put one tiny home like off grid, it will probably cost you 25 grand a piece. That's probably as much as the actual home.
Mm.
So
Is there
if
anything else that we could research? It doesn't have to be solar. There's a lot of other
what you know,
advancements.
I think though you can put just a 300 square feet solar, right? But what I'm saying, I can talk to my engineers. The consumption to these homes a lot less than a regular home
Hmm.
because they are insulated from inside out. Because and then as far as earthquake is concerned, you have to build them an 8 magnitude because you don't know what you're going to be placing them. So I'm sure I will talk to my engineer what the energy consumption is probably be much superior than regular home.
Right. Well, and another component of the green clean tech is not just energy consumption and lowering the carbon footprint, but what kind of innovative training in construction could we use in building the homes? So let's say we had a training component. We would love to have those people learn all the latest and greatest ways to
That is
deploy.
super easy. Nobody has what we have. Everything we use is patent material that we get it from the largest RV distributor in the world. So, for example, take we don't have drywall, we patch and paint. It's already pre-made. It's a patent drywall. It's the same, all the stoves, all the stuff, you can't find them anywhere else. They're very compacted and energy efficient. So the idea of that, a few people can build a house a day, nobody can do that.
Right. Well,
That
again, and
that's the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm no expert. I just read the tea leaves and read the rooms of the people who are trying to make sure that green, clean tech, sustainability. And the other issue is not just green, clean, and lower the carbon footprint, but when I say sustainability, what does that mean to anybody?
Well,
Sustain.
this sustainability, well, we're using a container, right? Repurposing it, the shipping container. And secondly, you remember we're building up to California's code, not any jurisdiction code. So California normally is the highest code, right? So it will supersede anybody else's energy compliance. So that's the plus for us because we're building it, our license is through the state, not to the city. So you're already ahead of other people. But and top of that, I don't think anybody, a big manufacturer, can build these things at the cost we're building them.
Okay. And again, I just want to make sure I'm just using buzzwords.
No, no,
So
that's
go ahead.
What
no.
we want to know. I mean, we want to hit those buzzword points to make sure we're
Yeah, I
addressing
mean,
this.
again, it's going to be part of the proposal. The rubric is going to ask us to hit these marks, and if we're not hitting them, then I don't care how innovative and genius we are, we're just not going to score well.
I'll talk to my engineer and I'll get the calculation, the energy efficiency for you. Remember, it has to be superiorly efficient because you don't know which jurisdiction you'll be taking this. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I was building a container home, I asked my engineer, I said, well, hey, why are we putting a 2x6 and insulating this container? All the walls, on the roof. That doesn't make no sense. This thing is cold in the middle of summer without air conditioning. He said, you have to meet the highest energy efficiency, the state requires. But I'll get those, instead of just me talking about it, I will get you the actual documents to what standard are they built.
Right. And I just put this
And
quote in here. I mean, I use ChatGPT for everything, but
Yes,
I just put in there sustainability for construction, just a couple of things, obviously renewable energy. I mean, there's
yes.
all kinds of things besides solar, but and how those things, kind of help to build a new workforce or a workforce that can be upskilled, retrained in developing these types of mandates for the state of California is probably something that we should, highlight in
And
our.
remember, job training is not only modular homes. Like any fabrication, we build our own trash bins. It's that to fabricate it is not one piece. You can fabricate a substation for the solar panels. There's a whole lot of elements when it comes to fabrication. It's not just only tiny homes, and not this. You're getting training on plumbing. You're getting training in electrical. You're getting training on the structural work, framing, design. That's valuable, whether this grant or in the future.
Got it. And I'm
the,
gonna shut up because I want everybody else to take because we're at 12:30 now. Is there any? I'm gonna ask another question. What does PLA mean to anybody that gets is in housing or construction? PLA. Has anybody heard that term?
No, what is that?
No.
I'm asking because it kept coming up. I couldn't be fly on the wall for everything that was going on, but I think it had something to
yeah.
do with the amount of housing that had to be set aside for people who were going to build or get permits in the city or the county. They had to have a certain set aside because that's the context in which this person kept talking about PLA, but it's some term that they kept saying PLA. So I don't know what's the PLA. So anyway, but they were talking about, you know, making sure that these developers had a certain amount of that quotient involved before they were able to build in certain communities. So
So
I
all my buildings, I have a private homeless shelter and what have you. I build them for a nonprofit, including the one for linked housing, the one on West, the one on Central Imperial. So I normally, like the one I'm talking to with a nonprofit, they want to put 126 people, but I have nothing to do with their operation. So I honestly don't know how those things work. But as far as building the
right. I
units,
just found it, guys. I'm sorry. I should have asked before I asked. It's a project labor agreement.
okay, I don't know.
Renee would have known that.
Huh?
Huh?
Renee's shaking her head. No, right. Renee made an interesting point too, which she asked about she put it in the chat, is the individuals who are building these homes, um, are we going to provide housing for them while they learn this trade? Because
Well,
that would be another way of addressing, let's say we had a couple of places that are already set up and ready to go. That could be like, so it'd be like not necessarily an encampment, but
A
uh,
dormitory. A
boarding,
dormitory.
like a dorm, absolutely, like a dormitory style where they're actually living on the site and building out these different places. So, I mean, that could be a solution that we can
Oh,
highlight
absolutely. If you don't
as
have that
part.
component in, you will be leaving out a tremendous piece of the puzzle to California Jobs First because, um, thank you, Renee, for that because really what's left behind a lot are the people who are in need right now
Correct.
of some sustainable way to
Mhm.
not just survive, but if they're going to be work ready or career ready, we've got to, have some kind of what's it called when you go into the ER to assess
Emergency.
um,
Just, oh, like
triage. We have to
Pre
have some
like
kind
a
of
triage.
triage
triage,
to
like a
figure out
triage.
what people's unmet needs are. And if we don't have that, or propose it, then we're going to be in trouble because all of this stuff, that could be turnkey and ready to go is great, but we still need to have something set aside for those people who we can identify are, upskilled, reskilled, and ready to be part of some certification that can go
Got
into
it.
or
Got
go
it.
into construction workforce or even
Okay.
development workforce for that matter. But
Absolutely.
and if those nonprofits you work with, is it Ermias?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those nonprofits you work with, how many nonprofits do you think aggregately those nonprofits serve? How many people do they serve?
All through the years?
Just aggregately, how many? I mean, one nonprofit can handle 10 people or 100 or 1,000, but how many of those people do you think they want to try to house?
How many people they were trying to house? They all, so the let's repeat the question again. How many people
Okay.
those
All right.
profits?
So they want to build housing for their constituents, right?
Right.
Nonprofits. How many of those people do you think are part of the equation of you and them coming up with some agreement that they're going to be able to get these people
None.
successfully placed into a home?
None.
None?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You speak like the nonprofits, how many of them they're housing people work with us or involved in the
Well, I
project?
guess what I'm trying to find out is a projection. So these nonprofits, so the context of my question is that you're working with nonprofits and
Yes.
they're how are these nonprofits going to pay for your time to even consider working with them?
Well, so far, I just nonprofits. For instance, I have a building on Western 66, right? It's housing 66 people in emergency homeless shelter. The nonprofit will give me the idea of what they want to see in the lot, and I build it and I hand over the key. I never get involved in the details with them.
Okay. So, but do you have a number of how many people that they're trying to get from unhoused to house? You don't have any number of.
Oh no, so that place, specific place, for instance, it's you have to be rotated every 90 days. So 66 people have to go out to permanent and they have to be replaced. I mean, I built about a couple of hundred rooms so far, and out of that, a couple of them are empty because they are shared bathrooms and restrooms. Um, and honestly, it's been a disaster because these people sometimes their grant gets canceled, and I'll be left with a building too. So that's something we need to be concerned about.
Okay, Renee just put something in the chat box.
Renee's got all the data. Bernice, yeah, she said she had some data about a project in Glendale that we can probably uh, maybe, yeah, and also she had some other data related to what we just discussed. So,
Like,
um,
to the actual person being housed if involved in the project, is that what it is, David?
no, he because there's a magic number out there in terms of people who are unhoused, right? And
Right.
what I guess how I understood the question is out of that magic number, let's say it's 100,000 people or 30,000 people, how much does each nonprofit, maybe have a commitment to serve? Is it 200? Is it 300? Is it 400? I mean, I
So
don't know
the,
if they haven't.
for instance, like the nonprofit, I helped to start a mentor. They serve about 600 people. And the other one, Fair Opportunity, she served maybe 250, including my building. I don't think it's no more than 1,000 people so far they served.
Okay. Renee has a question. I'm not good at looking at the chat or the things
Oh,
that I got. I'm
no, I'll
trying to do
monitor
something else on the
chat.
phone. So
I
sorry,
know,
Renee.
no worries. I'll
So
monitor
Renee, go
chat.
ahead.
I don't really have a question. I have a statement. Um, Obviously, the existing housing resources are overbooked. And for instance, LA County, their waiting list is closed.
Hmm.
So they are not an opportunity to find housing for these people. So we would have to put in our request a housing solution uh, that meets with California standards. Um, and the proposal I said is in Glendale, a few years back, they actually had a program that helped people become employed, and it mirrored the Section 8 model. But for us, we would have to find somebody private or this grant to fund for the people to stay in these units.
Like a case management.
I
I
beg
think
your pardon, David?
Is it like case manager, like somebody who is solely responsible to make sure that the services that are needed by the participants in the housing are being addressed?
That would be the second component of it. The first component is that the person would be paying 30% of whatever their income is towards living in the unit, but the grant part of it would be paying the other part for them. It would be time limited to 2 years. And the more money they make, the less money the grant would have to pay for them, just like with Section 8. And what I said is, I do have the statistics from the Glendale um, program in case you guys wanted to see it.
Any data is going to be needed for us to make a case as to why we're doing what we're doing and the importance of what we're doing, and how we're planning on being innovative of addressing those needs. Or yeah, I mean, definitely we
so.
will as far as
David,
solution.
I understand. So the people getting trained, we have to house them as well. Is that what it is?
I think that's part of the innovative process is because for the most part, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, it depends on how specific we get with the proposal. Obviously, we want to address a few things. One is people who are unhoused, right? People who are unemployed,
Well,
and
and that is, it's not only innovative, it is really the last mile of workforce development. These people, um, if they're housed, if they're independently living, by and large, they probably wouldn't need me. They would need something else. They need a headhunter because they're really ready to
it's
be doing something else. So yes, everybody that we take on is an apprentice, pre-apprentice. They're going to need some type of housing while they do their basic training, almost like boot camp. And so it's not really housing as much if it's really again just giving them a opportunity to shield them from the elements so they can stay focused and on task to get to the certifications and all the things we can do to get them placed.
Thank you.
Renee, go ahead.
And that go like the school goes through like the program at David's organization, correct? And
it could
how
be
would
any organization. It could be any trainer. I mean, the idea is to set it up so that it flows. I'd like to see. I mean, for me, yeah, I like the idea of having um housing is part of it. As we know, a lot of their students, especially in the community colleges, are don't have a place to live,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
disrupting their
well,
opportunity. I mean, their
right. And
chances
this
of it.
David, to that point, and I think Renee had a question, because she's one of the only persons who knows how to use these little icons. Because so Renee, go ahead. Don't. I think you're gonna have to jump in, Renee. I'm sorry, because by the time I see it, it's it might be
And
10
I was
later.
supposed to be monitoring the chat then.
So
I
what was your
really have for, oh, my point was that there's also people who have housing through the housing authority that we can enroll in our grander program, apprenticeship, whatever. So they have housing,
wow?
but there's
Then
other people that don't have housing.
they would then, if I was the hirer for a construction apprenticeship, I would be, unfortunately, I'm looking for talent. I'm looking for heart, desire, but unfortunately, I would look at giving those people more of an opportunity because they would have less opportunities to fall through the crack if they had housing, even if it's temporary from HUD. Because I'm telling you, in the years of trying to do workforce, and Mike can tell you, they can have all the heart desire they can muster up, but if they have anything that's going to take them out of the training, it's going to be unhousedness, and then that brings on mental health potentially. It brings on, if they have kids and the other things that are the stressors, they just don't become good candidates to make it through. And more importantly, who would hire somebody who has that many barriers or holes in their life? I mean, let's face it. I mean, people want to help people, but they're hiring folks for their dreams, not for the trainees' dreams. They're trying to find people that can plug their holes for talent, and that's so you can have a pipeline, but the pipeline for people who are really going to be ready, career ready, or people who have all those things like housing and some other resources, wraparound services.
Place.
So that's just the way it is.
So just to clarify, so it's multi-tiered. So first, I know submitting the proposal, but outside of that, it is we find the individuals that are interested in training. We find housing, or we build housing for the individuals. We find them. We train, and then we find employers who are willing to hire. Are
Yeah,
these some
and
of the layers?
what we have to do is we have to articulate how we're going to do it.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. I
yes,
just wanted
yeah.
to make sure I was
Yeah,
clear on the
yeah,
different, because it's
yeah.
multi-layered.
Right.
There's a lot
Well,
more to it, but
right.
yeah, I'm just trying to get
And Mike,
clarity.
and this is how I know it will happen. If you build it, they will come. So if you have a construction academy that's providing them with some dormitory or some housing wraparound services, or if their people already have housing situations and that's running out and they need to, find a job in order to stay,
Yeah,
stay protected, then people will come and submit themselves for qualification to that program. So if the workforce portal says that, hey, these are the people we're looking for, this is the archetype of the person we're looking for, and if you have these things, you'll score higher on our ability to convert you into somebody who can work for Hermes or for somebody else who's a developer.
I have a question. I have about a couple of buildings that I'm building, converting to homeless. Um, I would say about like 60 units. And if we let the students finish them, live on them, would these buildings will be qualified, or they have to be modular only? Just curious.
Modular is only, I mean, how I look at it, and in terms of what we're doing is it could be either or. I feel, I mean,
I mean,
I think the whole thing is just giving people an opportunity to get a skill, get housing. And depending on their situation, it could be modular, but it could also be, a regular construction site that they're pretty much building on their own to live there. If that's one of, that's innovative. I mean, I think if
That
people
is.
build their own houses, they're more apt. Now, they're not. They're probably would be more apt to want to stay there because it's something that they put their whole their their heart and soul into
It's
and time.
an amazing idea, but I tried it a little bit. The type of people they send you, uh,
Yeah.
they need really like help, like a mental health help.
Right. Well, and there's where yesterday the county had put, and Renee put some very good things into the text chat box. Does anybody want to respond? Or Renee, you want to set that up? Because I've never heard of Section 3, and I obviously the workforce
That
partnership. I have some ideas.
No, I have workforce development. I have workforce partnerships that I've developed that would that and Kevin, you're right. It's how it's not we can't do everything. It's how you structure and collaboration. Collaboration and partnership are going to be the key. So you have your relationships with the job seekers, and then let them do a lot of the screening before they get to our program. They
Right.
have the resources to do those things, and that's why you have these collaborative relationships to find you the right people based on the project or that you want them to work on.
Right.
Yes, not everybody who's not ready to work is going to come work on the
Right.
construction site
And
if they're not prepared to do so.
and Ermias and David, to that point, and I've got to jump in 12 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. I
the,
don't want to
the, the
follow.
thing that's most important in the partnership collaboration scenario of note, the people who are supposed to be doing all this matchmaking between the job hires and the job seekers um, is the American Job Centers of California,
Yeah,
AJCCs. And so their workforce investment boards, the money comes from the feds to the state to the county to fund all these HACCs. They're combat ineffective as far as I'm concerned, but they take on veterans, they take on people who they're supposed to be rehabilitating for work,
Yeah.
and they do all the
Unless
screening.
you text
So
her
we
and
can
tell her
partner
you're
with
here.
them as a mainstream partner, and then all the other not workforce programs can also be effective, especially if they have people who have some exposure to construction. I know one that works with construction that does with hazardous waste material and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the wildfire scenario. But all of that stuff is great. But the AJCCs, the workforce investment boards, those are the folks who are being paid big money to reduce results. Big money.
So I just want to say, not to you, I'm sorry. I'm going to call. I just want to say that Section 3 is a federal law that requires any project that is using over, I can't remember the exact amount, but say 200,000 federal funds, they have to look in the community that they're going to be working in to hire people for those construction projects, for those whatever kind of projects they're doing. And some, I don't know about other places, I don't know about nonprofits, but some housing authorities keep a list of who these people are. Um, and certainly, as part of our project, we could keep a list of who those people are or connect the construction folks with who those people are. And unfortunately, they have to pay prevailing wage.
and I have relationships with the AJCCs. I work with ADAP and West Adams Resource Center. They've done some of this work already in the Crenshaw area where they've worked with developers to help find, the right candidate for those opportunities within the community, because that's part of the hiring requirements. So, I mean, like again, the pieces are already there. We just got to put together something that hits those points you mentioned, Kevin. Make sure that those key buzzwords are addressed, whether it's innovation, whether it's housing, whether it's, training, wraparound services, and those things are addressed in a very clear and distinct way that people can look and say, you know what, hey, this makes sense, and it's scalable.
Right.
You don't have to
Well,
reinvent anything if you
and
drop
that's
it
the
into
point,
it.
because part of the grant is going to ask you what service planning area are you going to serve. And obviously, you want to be a meaningful, specific instead of a wandering generality to help everybody. But if we want to scale, the success of taking on one service planning area in West Athens to duplicate what we've done for other areas, that will get us closer to the $5 million grant so that we can serve all service planning areas and anybody else in the state who says, well, gee whiz, that program was well put together. How do we scale to connect to that? So I put the workforce investment boards, those are the people who are really the deciders on how we can scale. And so AJCCs are important, but there's one in every zip code. But the one that is going to connect us all to the stakeholders who are going to say that, man, we got to put this program in high, hold on a second, high alert, is really to go through. There's a central person that I met yesterday for all the AJCCs in LA County, and then the person who funds them for the Department of Economic Opportunity. Her name is Kelly Lobienko. We met. She serves on the steering committee for California Jobs First. Also, she talked about the importance of modernizing the AJCCs because they're combat, ineffective because they don't have, and even their modernization efforts are to make sure that they can get more information to the job hires and seekers in a way where they can match make better. And they're not doing that.
No, that's a big issue
so
right
they're
there.
funding all these
Kevin,
different places,
yes,
but they're
we
not
have, that's
daisy chaining. They're not daisy chaining all of the opportunities. So if we had an opportunity, well, how are they going to get that opportunity posted and socialized with all the people who could actually meet the actual qualifications? They don't have that right now. Don't have it.
No way. And I know I've had conversation with Kelly and Caroline Hall about that same issue, about how do we get better at that. But that I want to. That's another thing I want to a conversation I want to have with you, because that's a solution that I'm looking to offer to the city and other AJCs, how they could do that better using technology and using AI. It's a simpler way. But anyway, we'll have that discussion. I know you got to run because I have a 1 o'clock too.
And so, David, if you can put together some
I will. I will.
So that,
I will.
and then I will feed you more information of what I think is going to be into the proposal for.
Okay. No, I have a framework of it. I just now I'm gonna add. I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So I'll put the names on the proposal, and then I'm gonna put, based on the meetings that we've had, the conversation we have, the responsibilities. Please feel free to edit or add to what you're able to do.
Can you put that into a Google Doc?
I will put it as a Google Doc, and I'll put together a folder and I'll share it with everybody so everybody have access to it. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.